Today we're exploring 0 mana signature spells in Oathbreaker. Having a signature spell you can cast for free in the command zone can be very powerful. In fact, blue has what I think is the most powerful option for a free spell in the whole format. I'll give you a hint, it is a counter spell of some kind, maybe you can guess what it is. This video is going to be covering the blue cards, but stay tuned for videos on each other color. Alright, let's start this out with the counter spells. I think we're going to start with the less good options and work our way up to my most favorite. Disrupting Shawl and Foil both have you discarding or exiling specific cards from your hand to counter target spell. I think it's just too much to ask for. Thwart lets you return 3 islands you control to their owner's hand rather than pay its mana cost. Alright, this alternate cost is a lot easier to do, but it sets you back a lot. You're returning 3 islands, you're gonna need those for casting spells. Maybe I would consider this in like a combo type of deck where you just have to protect the combo you've already cast and the game will be over. For days, you can return 1 island to its owner's hand rather than pay its cost, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. And bouncing 1 land is much less of a setback, but the downside to this card is this is in your command zone. They can see this coming, so they'll plan to pay the 1. You're never gonna counter anything with this spell if they're paying attention. But I suppose in multiplayer, they might just play as normal and hope that you counter something that one of your other opponents cast. To be fair, I've never seen it used as signature spell, so maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. Mental Misstep can be cast by paying 2 life instead of the mana cost. Counter target spell with converted mana cost 1 or less. Now this card is a powerhouse in other formats, but not really in ours. The power mostly comes from being able to counter a turn 1 play, and that will never happen in Oathbreaker, because we need our Oathbreaker out to cast the spell. Force of Negation and Force of Will both have you exile a blue card from your hand to cast it without paying its mana cost. You know, Force of Will, both of these cards actually are really good in other formats. And they should be really good here too, especially Force of Will, which can counter any target spell. Misdirection has the same alternate cost, but instead of countering target spell, it says change the target of target spell with a single target. But again, if it's in the command zone, they can see it coming, so they're probably not going to target your stuff anyways. To be fair, there is value just to having that as a threat and never casting it. Commandeer lets you exile 2 blue cards from your hand rather than pay its cost. Gain control of target non-creature spell. You may choose new targets for it. Yeah, that alternate cost is very steep, but the power of the card is very high also. Remember, this is a format where everyone has 2 non-creature spells in their command zone. If you steal an opponent's Planeswalker with this, you're pretty much shutting down their whole deck, because now they also can't cast their signature spell. Now, I've looked at probably a couple thousand deck lists for Oathbreaker in researching for videos on my channel. And I can tell you that while this is not a popular signature spell choice, this is one of the most popular 0 mana cost ones. It also helps that it's blue, the color of drawing cards. That helps you fuel the alternate cost. You might even be able to cast this more than once in a game sometimes. Now, before I reveal what I think is the most powerful free counter spell, just wanted to say stick around because we've got a lot more free signature spells to talk about in blue. This is just the end of the free counter spells. Fierce Guardianship says if you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. This is the only one that is really and truly free. No alternate cost, you don't have to pay life, you don't have to discard cards, it's just free. Well, it is like $40, but if you have that, it's free. And again, in a format that focuses around planeswalkers and instants and sorceries, countering a non-creature spell can be a lot more powerful, a lot more potent. Surprise! I've got a bonus counter spell for you. This one is colorless, but I'm going to throw it in with the blue ones. Not of This World says counter target spell or ability that targets a permanent you control. This spell costs 7 less to cast if it targets a spell or ability that targets a creature you control with power 7 or greater. This can actually be very good, but of course it requires a specific kind of deck. You would not put this as signature spell in just anything. Next, we're going to talk about card draw signature spells that can be cast with 0 mana. Meeting of the Minds and Transcendent Message both have Convoke, meaning each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 or 1 mana of that creature's color. I questioned whether to put cards with Convoke in here at all. It's hard to believe that you're going to have like a bunch of creatures that you can tap for this. Granted, they are instants, so you can cast it on your opponent's turn right before it's your turn. That's something at least. Gush's alternate cost is returning 2 islands you control to their owner's hand to draw 2 cards. Gataxian Probe can be cast by paying 2 life instead of its mana cost. Look at target player's hand, draw a card. Next, we've got cards that tap creatures and also removal. Tidal Bore returns an island you control to its owner's hand to tap or untap target creature, and Ensnare returns 2 islands you control to their owner's hand to tap all creatures. Wicked Slumber with Convoke taps up to 2 target creatures. Put a stun counter on either of them, then put a stun counter on either of them. This is a little bit more removal-y than just tapping them. It locks them down for a while. Snap Back returns target creature to its owner's hand, and you get to remove a blue card from your hand rather than pay its cost. Submerge is kind of a weird one. If an opponent controls a forest and you control an island, you may play Submerge without paying its mana cost. Put target creature on top of its owner's library. So this can be completely free, but sometimes it won't be free at all. Do you really want to take that gamble? What is the chance that you're going to be playing against a green deck? In an Oathbreaker, there's a lot more mono-colored decks than in Commander. So the chance is lower because of that. That said, I have played this as signature spell before, and it worked out really well for me most of the time. Temporal Cleansing is another Convoke one. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it onto their library second from the top or on the bottom, and because this one can hit Planeswalkers, I like it that much more. Archive Trap is a free mill signature spell option. If an opponent searched their library this turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay Archive Trap's mana cost. Target opponent puts the top 13 cards of their library into their graveyard. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean a ton to me if you hit that like button. That will help the video get shared with more people. I'm trying to grow this channel based off of Oathbreaker content, which is very hard to do. So I really appreciate your support. Here's a bunch more videos that I think you might like. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.